Alright guys, I have some ideas in my head. I'm gonna try to explain them. I don't know if it's gonna work, but I'm gonna try to explain them. What's up everybody? I watched the events. I do watch the Summoners War esports. The Summoners War, the championships, like I'd watch the America's Cup. I watch the Europe's Cup. I try to just watch them low-key, just like hang out in the incognito window and be like, I see what's going on. And a lot of the time, it's just people there for the free crystals because they're like, yeah, we've seen these matches a million times before. It's the same 10 to 15 units being picked non-stop, just like the rest of RTA, the same 10 to 15 units being picked non-stop. They're like, what happened to the other 500 units in the game, right? So I have some ideas about RTA. Controls probably will not care at all about this video, or even consider implementing anything I'm saying, but I have some ideas. If you guys are interested in hearing them, it's whatever. So hang around or not, whatever. Anyway, the most fun RTA matches for viewers seem to be, I wrote some notes down, by the way. I'm reading some of these notes. Most fun matches for RTA viewers seem to be the stuff that is not meta, but when they bring out the stuff that we don't see very often. Now we saw this in the America's Cup when with Burke, and I forget, I'll put the clip in here, but we saw a match with Burke when he was trying to cleave with the bomb team, and everyone was like, oh, a different team! Someone's using a team that's not meta team. Very nice, very nice. And also the little funsies matches in the Europe's Cup, where the two just in case players that were like just in case someone gets sick, like these players would fill in, like they did some fun RTA matches of just like, it wasn't like it didn't count for anything, but they just did some fun RTA matches with weird units, and everyone was like, oh, that's different, we like this, we like to see this, because it's not the same 10 to 15 units that's always picked non-stop, and I mean, it's meta, some things are just stronger than others, right? You can't argue with that. Some units are just better. So anyway, I have two suggestions, and those matches were very cool, and kudos and props to the people that were playing the funsies matches, making it fun and interesting for us viewers. But I'd love to see some better, I mean, Comdros is like back and forth with this. They're like, oh, esport. Then in their last interview, they did an interview with, something said it was Newsweek. I don't know, they did an interview, and they were like, oh, it's not supposed to be competitive. Like, everyone thinks about esport like a competitive thing.
People look at esports in one way, and that's just competitive gameplay. For us, we felt mobile platform is not about competitive gameplay. It's about bringing people together around the world, allowing them to play with each other casually whenever you want on the go.
But no, we want it to be a community gathering where the community, and it's like, no, you call, esport is competitive. Sport is competitive. Community gathering is a convention. Are you trying to throw conventions comp to us? Just call them Summoners War conventions then. It would be a totally different vibe. People would get more interest. You would get more interest comp to us if you don't call them esport tournaments, if you called them conventions and had convention stuff, because I think that's what they're actually trying to go for, but they're just calling it tournaments, right? Because they have like the summon henge and stuff like that, and they have the different giveaways, and they have like art contests, and they have like the little things that you run through and do the little Kairos dungeon runs and stuff like that. Like, why not just call it a convention? More people will get excited about a Summoners War convention than a Summoners War esport, because people will be like, oh, I don't have the units to compete in that. So why would I even tune in to watch it? Oh, free crystals, free scrolls. Okay, I'll go there for the free scrolls, and then just like, I'm done when the free scrolls are out. See you later. So maybe consider if you don't want it to be a sport. And now they're changing their mind. They don't want it to be a sport. If you don't want it to be a sport, just don't call it a sport. Don't call it a convention. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know if they think that there's something wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. If there's a convention that has a tournament in it, that's perfectly fine. That's great. If that's what you're going towards, if that's what you want to do, then do that. But anyway, so the long-winded way of saying it, typical Jew Bagel, doesn't ever shut up. I have a few suggestions. Thoughts? Whatever. Suggestion 1. weighted points on winning. This is an interesting idea, right? I thought about this today. I was thinking about when I was watching. I was like, you know, what'd be fun is if to see like a variation, like a constantly varying meta. So here's the idea: the more units are picked and won within RTA in general, the less point gain a player can potentially gain from winning a match with those units. Like for example, if we see Molong Hathor, if someone wins with Molong Hathor, Ganymede, Perna, Vanessa, like, okay, those units are very, very commonly picked. They still win, but there's no like either points weighted to in a certain way or potentially or bonus points, whatever. However you want to think about it, is they would have a less successful win. They would have less point gain at the end. Excuse me, from winning a match with those units. Whereas if a player wins with Daphnis or Pungbek or Chandra or like a mix of very low tier, not low tier, because then competitors have to come up with a tier list, but units that are not being picked in high level meta, right? Things that are low on the pick list and on the win list for like the previous week or whatever. If players are picking and winning with those, then they would get more point gain from those wins. That would lead to a constantly changing meta on a weekly basis, because it's like, okay, well, the first week everyone's picking like the normal stuff, right? And then you see like, oh, okay, Daphnis is down here, no one's picking Daphnis, very little people picking Daphnis, Brandia, Pungbek, Chiwu, things like that. Like, okay, well, those are very valuable to pick now. The second week, again, just thoughts, right? Just my different thoughts I'm throwing out. I want to see what you guys think of this. But like the second week, those units are very valuable, and you win with those, you can get more points winning with those than you would with meta relevant units. So maybe consider getting those for the bonus points and potentially rising up faster than players that are using the meta relevant units. So it's just a simplified version of what would have to go on behind the scenes. There would have to be a lot of weights into consideration in picks and in player ranks and stuff like that. You couldn't just like, it couldn't just be based on like the unit's point values of using a unit, right? Because you still have to consider both players' ranks. But it's just a simplified version of what could potentially be something interesting, right? So it would lead to a constantly changing meta. Like the first week, you see like the Daphnis and Pungbek or whatever, but then like the next week after that, it's like, oh, well, those units were used a lot the past week, so they're not at the bottom of the list anymore because people were using those and winning with those. So now what's at the bottom? It maybe like Ritesh is at the bottom, and maybe like I don't know, Juno, whatever, like what different Alicia, I don't know, different things at the bottom, and then like those you'd see a lot more of those because they have a higher point value to gain. Anyway, that's just one suggestion. That's suggestion number one. I didn't want to make this a long video, but man, I love to talk. Apparently, I love to talk, and it just gets more confusing the more I talk, doesn't it? So I apologize in advance for all of the confusion that I'm very good at. Suggestion number two. Now, this is something that has been talked about before, like a new arena mode. It's been talked about before in Fua's streams. It's been talked about in my streams. Claytano did a video on it. This is basically taking the arena mode from Hearthstone, which is already a successful arena mode, and implementing it in Summoner's War, right? Already a system from Hearthstone. We didn't come up with this. It's just like, oh, there was a lot of talk in the community, like, oh, or maybe a little talk in the community, like, oh, why doesn't Summoner's War do this? Well, I mean, the reason that Summoner's War doesn't do that is if they give everyone, and I'll explain it a little bit more, but if they give everyone access to all of the units, then it's more esport friendly. It's actual has competitive, like, it's more skill involved of like trying to pick. I mean, it's still a lot of RNG, but at least levels the playing field a little bit more instead of being like, oh no, you can only compete at high level if you've farmed all these runes, if you've bought all these units. So anyway, it's basically a unit draft. You have to draft units, possibly 3 to 4 different units that you can pick from. Like you have number one pick, the first pick a pick from your, none of these would be picks from your monster box. It would be picks of like, okay, here's 4 units that you can pick from. Like the first pick would be like, here's 4 different 3 to 4 star monsters. Pick one, move on to the next pick. Then your opponent picks one. Okay, they picked their 2, right? And they have to pick from, again, draft just random 3 to 4 star units. You have 4 choices. Pick whatever the best value choice is. And then on back to the first player, they pick the other 2. You know, same style as that. But they have to pick from another 2. Maybe these ones are like the first and second could be like 3 to 4 star units. The third one could be like a 4 to 5 star unit, and then the last 2 could be both 5 star units or whatever, right? So this gives people more, or like even potential to be like, there's got to be one light dark nat 5 in there. You don't know what it is, right? But every time you get to the pick ban phase, like one light dark 4 star, one light dark 5 star that you have the opportunity to get and potentially play with. But that would be, I mean, Comptrolls would probably not do that, but that would be an interesting thing to do. That would be at least not balanced. I mean, it would kind of be balancing the playing field, as in like leveling the playing field, making it accessible for everyone to play it, and at a competitive level, and no excuses, right? If everyone has the same opportunity to get these high-powered units and to get good runes. Now we have to have a preset meta-relevant rune options as well to make it fast. So you couldn't rune things on the fly. You would have to have the rune builds already decided in advance, and you would have to say, okay, these are your 4 options to rune this unit. You have 10 seconds. Pick the runes you want and move on. So you'd have to have after you see like, okay, this is, or maybe like 30 seconds, and you like click on the runes that you want for all 5 units, but you have 30 seconds, but you have to rune all 5 units in 30 seconds. Not each specific rune, but saying, okay, these are my rune set options. I have like maybe 10 rune set options. This rune set I want on this rune set I want on this rune set I want on this, like all just 6 runes all at the same time. You'd have to just like click and drag or whatever. So anyway, the Comptrolls doesn't like click and drag, do they? We don't have a lot of click and drag stuff. Oh, we do have some click and drag. Never mind. Anyway, so it's just, I mean, this is already in Hearthstone. This drafting system is already a thing. Comptrolls would probably never entertain it though, because that would even the playing field, and that would mean less revenue for them. Or would it? Or would it? And again, like I said, Claytano actually did a video on this too. So if you want to, if I'm explaining it badly, his video might explain it better. But this is a viable, like this is potentially a thing. Like you could charge crystals for the arena wings, whatever, and then people would get to play with these super rare units, potentially making them more exciting. Like you could, of course, or you could even sell tickets, right? You could even sell like, oh, you want to play this new tournament mode? You have to buy tickets, maybe 5 tickets for $5 or stuff. I don't know. Anyway, just like you could make more revenue that way, or you could potentially see if maybe it entices players to spend more money on packs after they spend time playing with these OP units. They're like, ooh, I really need that. Oh, summoning stone's coming up. I really need that. I did really good in that mode with it. Ooh, I really would love this in Guild Wars, in Arena. Gotta get those summoning stones for that, or light dark packs or whatever. Might entice more people to spend more money. But at the bottom line, like, this is really about like what's gonna make Comptrolls more money, and this arena mode probably will not make them more money. It would be a more viable esport, but the question we have to ask ourselves is, do they actually want to be an esport? Probably not. Do they want to pretend that they're an esport just enough to get high-level players excited about attaining glory and recognition so that they spend more money on more light dark packs and rune packs and reappraisal packs to gain that glory and recognition? That's probably the game plan for Comptrolls, but if they actually did want to make it an esport, these could be viable things. Again, this is not things that I created necessarily. This is just some things that a few of us in the community have thought about, have talked about. I'm sure that a lot of you watching have had these thoughts before, or maybe similar thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hopefully I did a not terrible job explaining this, but yeah, it's just things that I've been thinking for a while. And then the one about the weighted points I thought about today, and I was like, I don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea, but I'm sure it's a bad idea. The comment section will always tell you if it's a bad idea, right? But anyway, just some thoughts that I had. I thought I would share them. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm gonna go spend 5 hours editing this now, and to stick little visual images in here. And I will see you guys, as always, in the next one.